So hi everyone, welcome to yet another episode of Project Analysis series. Today I'll be touching on Skye at Holland, one of the highly anticipated launches for this quarter, and yet you hear so many agents hyping it up, saying that it is buying into 2019 prices and it's sort of like a sure win profit margin. But is that really true? So I'll be doing some comparison as well as deep dive into the land cost, pricing analysis, the floor plan comparison, and etc. So stay tuned if you want to find out more. So first, we start off with the project information. I think it's very clear. It is a joint venture by UL, Singapore Land, King Leong, as well as Capital Land, four major developers coming in hand to create this development. It is in Prime District 10 in the core central region with 666 units here. The estimated TOP will be actually more towards 2029 lah. Here we will have two blocks of 40-story residential. And then also another thing to note is that while it is close walking distance to MRT, it has 1-to-1 car park lot, which is very rare in today's market. So just to brief you a little bit through where exactly we are, this is Skye at Holland, just right across the road from where One Holland Village Residences and the mall is, and also a short walking distance to the Holland Village MRT. So One Holland Village just TOP around 1 year ago, August, September 2024. So there has been a bustling lifestyle mall. If you are there on weekday afternoons or even weekday nights, you'll notice that it's really quite crowded. I've had some appointments at night, even on weekdays, and everywhere is just packed. People are walking their dogs. Each family maybe not just have one, maybe 2 or even 3 dogs. People are bringing their family over to eat, over for their evening walks, etc. It is a lifestyle on its own. So if that is something that you are looking forward to, then this could be something for you. So over here, when we zoom in, right, you'll notice that there are grey areas over here. These are where the GCB enclaves are. So GCB typically there are only 2 stories high, and also for Skye at Holland, given that our first unit is on the 4th floor, you'll notice that we are on elevated ground, and even if you buy on the lower to mid floor, you also can potentially have a good view if you're facing towards here. Then on the other side, then there will be where One Holland Village is, as well as the MRT. So I have put Skye at Holland as well as One Holland Village residences side by side. So at least you have a feeling, where are the facings and how did the blocks look like? So you can see pretty much you don't have as much blocks facing One Holland Village. It's pretty much 2 blocks, right? Then you kind of block each other like if you are inner facing. But I guess the outward facing, you do have quite a good view if you are, especially if you are facing the landed side. Then this is the view as I mentioned earlier. Part of it will be towards the low-rise houses / the nature reserve. The other one will be towards the low-rise Holland Village, etc. But do take note that right in front of us over here, it is a BTO site. But I guess it's pretty much quite in line actually, because by the time that this BTO is completed, it's also somewhere around then that Skye at Holland is completed as well. Then what you notice is that because for this view, this is the car park and these are the only blocks, pretty much you still get quite a good distance even if you're facing on this side. Then of course, artist impression, beautiful. When you walk in the show flat, it will be equally as beautiful as well. But I guess if you are a first-time buyer stepping in the show flat for the very first time, that is something that you have to take note. You have to look into further details, not just because of how beautiful it is, how good it makes you feel. You do have to do a deeper dive analysis into what you are looking for, whether it's for own stay or for investment, which I'll cover on later. So then we move on to the site plan as well as the unit mix. Not too much to shout about, but I guess our land size is significantly bigger than One Holland Village. You have full-fledged condo facilities, just missing a tennis court, which is quite common nowadays to not have, yeah. The unit distribution chart, as mentioned earlier, the units start on 4th floor, as well as the unit mix. So here you notice that Skye at Holland, we do not have any 1-bedrooms at all. The smallest beginning with a 2-bedroom, which is a 2-bed 1 bath. Then the thing to note is that when I add all the two ballots together, they do stand quite a substantial percentage of the units here, totaling to about 55%, which is still okay, not too bad, because then the 3, 4, 5 bedrooms, they do still have a substantial number of them. So now we need to compare with One Holland Village in terms of the unit mix, the layouts, what are the pricings that they bought in, such that we can compare. Is it a safe entry? Is it safe to buy into Skye at Holland? And at which price point should you walk away at? So looking at One Holland Village unit mix, right, it's quite surprising to see that the 1 and 2 bedrooms totaling add up to 70% of the development. Bear in mind that the total number of units is just 296, of course not as big as Skye, but having 70% of them being on the smaller unit types, which means your 3 and the 4 bedrooms, they are very little. Another thing that I observed while I scroll through the entire transactions, right, is that this project actually launched back in November, December 2019. This was when actually quite a substantial number of units were being sold. Then in between 2020, 2021, few units here and there. But what I realized is that in the late 2022 or even 2023, that was when yet another cycle of substantial number of units being sold. So what this means to them is that whoever bought at a later stage, they will only have hit their 3-year seller stamp duty mark in either this year 2025 or next year 2026, which is actually one of the reasons why we haven't seen much sub-sale transactions in One Holland Village as of yet. Out of 296 units, there has only been one sub-sale. But of course, bear in mind, out of that, we do have 180 plus rental transactions. So all these bits and pieces of info is just for you to digest and just to give you a little bit more insights as to your direct competitor. So for One Holland Village, right, back then when it was launched, it was based on a concept plus land bid kind of bidding system, whereby the developers have to come up with their design proposal, their concept and all that, together with their land bid prices. So with that, right, each tenderer were able to submit multiple proposals with their pricings as well. So right here, we see that the top bid actually came in at this $1.2 billion, which is a lot of money lah. Then thereby translating to 1,888 per square foot per plot ratio. But one thing to note is that when we compare the top first versus the second and the third, such that 1.2 billion versus 1.06, 1.05, thereby this entire thing is a 150 million gap. So it essentially means that the land cost itself from 1,888 to comparing to the second and third bid of just over 1,006 per square foot. What this means to the consumers, whoever has bought into One Holland Village, is that because the developer bought at this price tag, whether they overbid, they didn't overbid is up to you to judge. But I would say when the developers bought at this certain price point, can I say that who do they have to pass along this pricing to? To the consumers themselves, correct? So in a sense that the land cost is higher, in order for developers to even break even, to even have a 10-15% profit margin, then they will have to sell even higher to consumers. Then of course, when we compare to Skye, what I noticed is that the first and the second bid actually came in quite close at just over 1,002 per square foot per plot ratio. Then another question you might ask is, Yvette, 2018 the land was bought for 1,888, but now it's only 1,002. Then why are new launches getting more and more expensive when the developer bought cheaper per se? This one, if you want me to go on with regards to the URA rulings and all that, I can take an hour and 2 hours and I'll never finish this video, but I'll just touch on a very brief one. But if you want me to elaborate a little bit more, then we can have a consultation in person, then that'll be easier. So one of the rulings that changed back in 2018 was that the total number of units that the developer can build are significantly lesser. So how do they calculate this is that when you take the plot ratio times site area, divided by this formula, you get the total number of units that you can build in a development. So it used to be divided by 70 square meters, but in 2018 it has since changed to 85 square meters, which means developers can now only build a much lesser unit per development. So when developers build lesser of units, can I then say that where else can they take their profit from? Then of course all this will have to be translated into the selling price in the future, and that is why stages by stages you see new launches getting more and more expensive. Then also additionally, developers should provide a good mix of development that cater to the needs of larger families and facilitate multi-generational living. This is taken from URA website, not quoted from me. But here we see TLDR summary. Number one, given the same plot of land, now lesser units to be built by the developers. Not only that, developers have to build a minimum 20% of the units at least 100 square meters and maximum of 20% of the units less than 50 square meters. So they have to build more of the bigger unit types, but yet for smaller unit types, they cannot exceed 20%. So TLDR, that's the rules changes in 2018. Then of course, fast forward to 2022, we also have the harmonization. Again, summarize for you, floor area is now taken from the middle of the wall. It used to be different authorities, some take from the middle of the wall, some take from the outside of the wall, but government actually stepped in to say that for all authorities to standardize, everyone to take the floor area as of the middle. So another thing to take note is that all strata areas such as the aircon ledge, etc. are now included in gross floor area. So what happened is previously, developers could get areas such as aircon ledge for free, and then thereby charging that floor area to the consumers. So now they can no longer do that lah. So now in today's context, while you see the floor area seemingly smaller, but yet internal is still the same, it's because they simply took out the aircon ledge floor area from your unit size. TLDR, that's about that. Then of course, given a smaller floor area, but yet at the same time, developers still need to make money and they bought the land at a certain price, then that is why the price across the years also increases throughout all these changes in the URA guideline. So I dabbled too much on the technicalities of what happened across the years. Now we dive back into the project, alright? So now back to Skye at Holland, the layout analysis. For the 2 bedrooms, for a 2-bed 1 bath is nothing much to shout about. So at 581 square feet, you get a 2-bed 1 bath. A conventional dumbbell layout whereby you save on the corridor space. No windows in your kitchen, no windows in your bathroom. Why is that so? It's because for Skye at Holland, given that there's only 2 blocks, the 2 bedrooms are all sandwiched in between, and at the corners there is where you have your 3, 4 and 5 bedrooms. Here I also do a comparison with One Holland Village 2-bed 1 bath, which is non-harmonized. The floor area is significantly bigger, but yet at the same time when you look at it, to be very honest, there's not much of a difference in terms of functionality, in terms of layout. I mean, one thing is that the balcony is significantly bigger, but that's about it lah. So there the 2-bed 1 bath, right, started as low as 1.6 million, but all the way up to above 2 million. So then your question may be, if I buy a 2-bed 1 bath at 1.6 million, does it mean I'm guaranteed safe? But I think it's not as simple as that lah. We really have to dive into exactly how many percentage of the people really bought in at One Holland Village at 1.6, 1.7 million, how many of them at 1.8, 1.9, and how many at 2 million to really determine whether is it a safe buy. Like, it's not as simple as saying like, oh, I buy at 1.6 when beside me has already transacted 2 million. It's not as simple as that. There's a lot more factors, there's a lot more things to be looked into as well. So assuming, let's say, an estimated per square foot of 2008 for this 581 square feet, then that would translate to about 1.6 million, which you ask me in today's market to buy into a core central region, to buy a Holland Village and all that, 1.6 million actually is quite attractive price point, especially for those who are a bit more budget conscious, do not have such a big amount of budget to play with. That is when you can consider the 2 bedrooms. But I would say, if you ask me in terms of like which one I feel there is more potential, then I'll definitely tell you would be the bigger unit types, because that is when the own stay buyers are really come in, those people who, number one, aren't willing to wait for the project to be built. Number two, want something brand new, don't have to wait, don't have to rent and all that, then those people would likely be able to pay the premium. And that is the own stay buyers. But if you ask me, comparing to investors, generally they are a lot more budget sensitive. Then my question is, would they be willing to pay you the profit or the premium that you want in order to exit? Which I feel for 2-bed, if you're buying for own stay, by all means, but if you're looking to flip for a short term, then I think there are a lot more considerations to look into. Because after all, when I look into the rental, right, one Holland Village, the average rental for this bedroom type is generally about average of about 5K. So assuming if let's say we buy it at 2008, 1.6 million, or we buy it at 3,000 per square foot at 1.74 million, actually the rental yield is about the low 3%, which is not fantastic. Which was why I say if you're buying for rental, then could there be better options? But if you're buying for own stay, again, by all means. Then we move on to the 2-bedroom premium, which is the 2-bed 2-bath units at 667 square feet. Again, it is a dumbbell layout, 2 bedrooms at the side, your 2 bathrooms also at the side. But one thing to know when you go to the show flat, right, I usually don't like it when the bathroom is being shared by the common bedroom as well as the living room. Why is that so? Is because when I look at here, right here, typically it's really a lot thicker because you have to accommodate a sliding door. But yet at the same time, behind you is the bathroom door, then in front of you is the bedroom door. Even though your common bedroom is the same size as the other bedroom types, right, you may feel that the bedroom is smaller lah. So that's just a personal preference on my end. But anyway, of course you have the L-shaped kitchen, nothing much special lah. Also, there is another 2-bedroom premium, 678 square feet. The main difference is that you have your kitchen tucked away here. I wouldn't say it's enclosable because again, it doesn't have a window, right? But at least it's tucked away. You have your cooking, everything in one corner. The smell doesn't dispel entirely to the other parts of the house lah. But given the unit mix being a lot of it at 2-bedroom, and also at the same time with one Holland Village having quite a number of 2-bedrooms, then there could be a bit more supply, which means a bit more competition when you do want to rent or you do want to sell in the future. So that's just something to take note of. Then when I compare the floor plans of the 2-bed 2-bath of these two developments side by side, the main difference is that one is a dumbbell, the other one is a conventional, both bedrooms tucked away in one corner. Of course, at a bigger size at 797 square feet. Then the balcony, you see lah. The fact that you can open your sliding window and push all the way to the side and that your balcony is a squarish shape, I think the balcony is probably twice the size as ours. But in any case, to each his own lah. Some people really can put in zip track, really fully utilize the balcony space, then I think it's great. Whether you're buying for investment or for own stay, I think it's very important to think about your exit strategy. At what price point do you enter, and potentially how much can you exit at. So at one Holland Village, the 2-bed 2-bath transacted as low as 1.85 million. All the way up to 2.5 million. Again, you have to see how many percentage enter at the lower price point and how many percentage of them enter at a higher price point. So if you want to take a look and you want to analyze the transactions together, then we can sit down and we can go through. But it's something that I cannot cover through the entire video lah. But estimating, let's say we enter at 2008 per square foot, right, at 67 square feet, then the entry price will actually be about 1.86, which I think comparing to one Holland Village, this price point is still quite palatable and is still quite conservative lah. If you buy in at a higher per square foot, let's say you buy at 3.1, 3.2, then my question is, how do you exit in the future? Would your next buyer be willing to pay you close to 4,000 per square foot in order for you to hold a decent amount of profit? That's something to think about. Then moving on to the 2-bed 2-bath rental yield. At one Holland Village, the average rental about 5,500. Given the purchase price, just a simulation. Also, again, rental yield is not fantastic. If you're looking for a high rental yield, then you may have better options over here. Then the 2-bed plus study, 732 square feet for the two on the left side, 742 square feet on the right. So I quite like the study because it's over here. What this reminds me of is Sora, the one at Lakeside, Jurong area. They also have a very similar unit type, with your study being part of your master bedroom, which you can potentially hack away over here. And yet at the same time, it gives you access to your balcony, which I think is quite nice. Your kitchen is tucked away in this corner. But however, for the right side, then my question is, this study, I think may not end up being a study lah. It could end up being a storage corner. Then it's really up to you lah, which one you want to buy in. But again, given the 2-bed 2-bath at only 667 square feet, potentially starting from 1.85 million, then the question is, would this study be worth paying 150, 200k more? Then that's really up to you to decide whether this is for you. Then now we move on to the 3-bedroom layout. This one, I'm quite excited because only at 915 square feet, you basically have most of the qualities that a 3-bedroom would need. So when you enter from here, you'll notice that your kitchen is fully functional. You have your windows at the side. Your bathroom also has windows over here. And also at the same time, all 3 of your bedrooms can comfortably fit a queen size bed. It's not those layouts whereby 780, 800 square feet and then they squeeze in a 3-bedroom and then your unit doesn't feel like a 3-bedroom. This one is a fully functional, and I believe that at this size, the quantum will really be very attractive. It is a good entry level. If let's say you don't have the budget to stretch to a 3-bedroom premium, but yet again you see the potential of buying a 3-bedroom rather than a 2-bedroom plus study or 2-bedroom premium, then this is definitely worth considering. But bear in mind there's not many units of 915 square feet, so pray that the ballot number is in your favor lah. So the next 3-bedroom premium at 1076 square feet. You have a longer foyer here, but yet again you have your dry kitchen, wet kitchen, and additional of your bomb shelter, yard, and WC. But the rest of it is more or less the same lah. Just that for this one, instead of your 3rd bedroom at the opposite end, for here all 3 bedrooms are facing the same side. Imagine if let's say you buy this layout that is facing the landed area with all 3 bedrooms of the same facing. Not so bad. Good view for everyone. 3-bedroom comparison with One Holland Village at 1098 square feet. Putting it side by side, to be very honest, you cannot see too much of a difference. One Holland Village balcony is huge because it stretches all the way to the bedroom 3. But another thing to note is that even though this part, right, is stated as a utility, I wouldn't really call it a utility because one, right, your door is here, your door is here, your WC is here, your washing machine is here. Pretty much with all these things around you in the utility area, number one, it won't really serve as a storeroom because then you need to leave a lot of walkway for you to walk from the entrance to the WC, then to your washing machine to dry clothes, and then from your kitchen in, right? You need to cater a lot of walkway lah. With that being said, right, means this one can likely not function as a helper's room lah for the One Holland Village 1098 square feet. But whereas for Skye, for this one, given that the bomb shelter is a proper size, then you can definitely do that. Back to the pricing, right? One Holland Village has transacted from 2.56 million all the way up to 3.4 million. Then with an estimated price of 2008 per square foot, you are only entering at the low 3 million mark, which I think could possibly be a safe entry price given today's market. But also at the same time, you do have to delve deeper into how many percentage of them really enter at this lower price point, and then how many of them actually paid above 3 million. Then that's something to take note of. So now we move on to the 4-bedroom layout at 1238 square feet. They managed to squeeze in, not say squeeze lah, they managed to put in 4 proper bedrooms with a private lift. Wow, quite nice. But the only thing that is missing is a landscape living and dining lah, because this one is more of a portrait shape. But the fact that you have 1238 square feet, I think buying into this one, you definitely have an edge over your competitors, because when I compare this with the One Holland Village 4-bedroom, that one is of a much bigger size, which means it's a much bigger quantum. Then that definitely gives you an advantage over that. So when I compare the 4-bedroom Skye at Holland at 1238 square feet harmonized, it's actually the same size as One Holland Village 3-bedroom 1238 square feet non-harmonized. Wow, same size, but you get a 4th bedroom. But we have to see how functional the layout is. For One Holland Village, you have a private lift, but it opens up to your foyer. which then is a bit question mark because your back door and your front door same entrance one, so your private lift, to each its own lah. But then again, you do have a landscape living and dining area and all that, but besides that, there's really nothing much. Whereas for Skye at Holland, your private lift lobby opens up to here. Your back door is really tucked away at the back, not being seen as much lah. But that aside, right, we look at the price point. So for one Holland Village, remember I mentioned there has only been one subsale transaction of today's market. The subsale transaction is actually the 3-bedroom, this exact layout over here. So this guy, right, actually bought at this price and sold at this price in less than 3 years. Wow, close to 500k in terms of profit. I think looking at this, we know what the market is looking out for lah. But then again, because the entire 296 units development only has one subsale, there is no telltale sign as to how this will perform in the resale market. It hasn't been proven yet. Then we do have to look at a lot more pointers besides the price gap. But that being said, right, assuming if let's say you buy into this 4-bedroom at 3,000 per square foot, entering at a low 3 million mark, while your neighbor 3-bedroom has already transacted 3.7 all the way up to 4.2, with the subsale up to 4.68. I do think this price tag is quite attractive lah. If let's say you don't have the budget to stretch even more, and for this size, the fact that you can get everything that you need for a 4-bedroom, I think is really not too bad. Then if we compare with one Holland Village 4-bedroom, again, much bigger size, so we can't really compare in terms of size. Of course, we cannot win one lah. But the thing to note is that one Holland Village, there are only 9 units of the 4-bedroom, and the transacted prices above 6.4 million. Then it really got me thinking, wow, with 6.4 million, what can we buy? Could we possibly buy a freehold landed in the area? Or could we possibly buy a 5-bedroom at Skye at Holland? Oh, that's something to think about. But in any case, right, this 4-bedroom, 1,238 square feet, if you can enter at the low 3 million mark, I do think it's quite a safe entry. That being said, comparing with the supply in the area, as well as what you can get in terms of the layout efficiency, I really think it's not too bad. Then we move on to the 4-bedroom premium with private lift at 1,464 square feet. If your budget can stretch to this, and if you are looking for own stay, I think this one really damn sure. Because when you look at the kitchen, this reminds me of Pine Tree Hills 4-bedroom unit type, also with the same kitchen, the same private lift components. That unit type is very popular and it has since been sold out. So for this kitchen, right, you can close up when you do have to cook. But yet at the same time, when you are ready with your food and your drinks, right, you can entirely open up. And this island is when your friends and everything, they can hang around this entire corner, just mingling, just enjoying the company. And I can imagine how nice of an ambience that can be. When your lift lobby opens up to this landscape living and dining area, and somehow you're facing this unblocked view, wow. If you get a mid to high floor, I can assure you that the view will be breathtaking. And if your budget is as such and you're looking for own stay, then this is definitely something to look forward to. And assuming with an estimated per square foot of, let's say, 2,900 per square foot, this could be 4.2 million upwards. And if you can get this layout at this size at that price point, when your neighbor 4-bedroom has transacted 6.4 million, you think about it yourself. Next on, last one for the 5-bedroom. 5-bedroom premium with private lift at 1,765 square feet. Again, with the same kitchen, with the same layout, just an additional junior master. This one will be very grand. With the same view, but yet again, 37 units. So what I realized, right, is for the bigger unit types, those that are a bit more catered for own stay living, right, what we have seen in the recent launches such as Promenade Peak, such as Upper House or Robertson Opus, right, what we notice is that for the larger unit types, they tend to move from upwards down. Meaning to say the higher floors get sold out first, then when the higher floors no more, then that is when the buyers move down and down and down. What that means is that for own stay buyers who are buying to this area, buying for this size for their own stay, right, typically they have the budget to play with. It's either they get the best or they get the second best. They come in, they have the budget, they'll just go for the best, which is the highest floor possible. And that is what I predict for the earlier 1464 square feet 4-bedroom, as well as for this one, that if buyers come in and they want this unit type, right, I suspect that the higher floors will move first instead of from the bottom up lah. And assuming if let's say it's starting at 2008 per square foot, 1765 square feet, right, this could potentially be about 4.9 million or upwards to or 5 million plus. Which again, one Holland Village, 4-bedroom, transacted 6.55 up to 7 million. Then you can think about it lah. This one comparing to one Holland Village 4-bedroom, there is a price gap of $1 to $2 million. Then I think this is definitely a good buy if you can afford, if you have the name to feel free to. Then also at the same time, right, those who are looking at 4-bedrooms with limited supply of the newer developments in this area, you will most likely be able to command a premium in the future because large unit types like this are extremely rare. A lot of times people buy for own stay, they don't sell. Then when there's not enough supply, then that is when you can command the prices. Whereas if you buy the 2-bedroom, it's not saying that cannot buy. But when the supply is a bit higher, buyers can go around each and every unit and ask, hey, can I get this price? Can I get this price? Pretty much it's more of a buyer's market lah. But when you buy the larger unit types, right, where the supply is significantly lesser, and that is when you can command a higher price premium. So that is it for my Skye at Holland analysis. So if you like a more in-depth analysis as well as an insight as to where the market is heading towards in the next quarter or in the coming year of 2026, we have a lot of exciting new launches coming up. Besides Skye at Holland, we have Penrith at Margaret Drive. We have the Sand also at the Beauty World Bukit Timah area. And also at the same time, we have Zion Grand in the River Valley Zion Road area. All these projects launching in the late September, October period. Then that is something to look forward to because when you are buying into a property, it is a lot of money involved and you do not just want to step into a show flat, everything feels good and then you end up buying out of FOMO, out of hype. You do have to come in to do a deeper analysis in terms of numbers, in terms of layouts, in terms of your nearby new launch, your nearby resale, how's the schools in the area, and not just based on location, right? Because whenever you buy into something, you will definitely need to think about the exit strategy. Who are your future buyers and what are they looking forward to? So that's all from me and I look forward to seeing you in my next video. If you like what I shared today, feel free to like, share and subscribe to my channel and I'll see you in the next one.